It was a Tuesday afternoon in Ashland, Oregon, and the sting on my cheek still burned like fire. Claire Bennett, had just woken up from another exhausting night shift at Ashland Regional Medical Center. The house felt too quiet, too perfect, like always. My mother, Laura, was at physical therapy recovering from her hip surgery months earlier. And Marcus Lang, my stepfather, was supposed to be at his office running Lang Development, one of the biggest real estate firms in the valley. I wandered into his study, drawn by the soft afternoon light filtering through the heavy curtains. The room smelled of polished leather, aged whiskey, and that faint metallic scent of power. Marcus had turned our once cozy family home into his fortress after marrying my mother 3 years ago. Everything ran through him now: mail, finance, even the grocery lists. He called it efficient household management. I called it control. My eyes landed on the old cloth-bound book on the lower shelf of the oak bookcase. Serenity Lake Histories, a local self-published volume that once belonged to my grandmother Beatrice Hale. Grandma used to read from it to me as a child, her voice warm with stories of the founding families and the peaceful lake communities. The book looked untouched for years, covered in a thin layer of dust. Working nights left me with long, empty hours, and I had run out of novels. What harm could one old book do? I carried it to the kitchen table, flipping through pages about the old lakeside developments. The words transported me back to simpler times before Marcus. Then I heard his car pull into the driveway earlier than expected. Panic rose in my throat. I should have put it back, but my feet wouldn't move fast. Marcus burst through the door, his custom-tailored suit jacket slung over one arm, face already pinched with irritation from whatever deal had gone sideways. His sharp eyes locked immediately on the book in my hands. "What the hell are you doing with that?" "It's just Grandma's old history book," I said, trying to sound casual. My voice wavered. "The door to your study was open." "I didn't think." "You went into my study?" His voice dropped to that low, dangerous tone I had learned to dread over the past years. "Nothing in there is yours to touch." The slap came without warning. His palm cracked hard across my cheek, snapping my head to the side. Pain exploded, hot and sharp. As I stumbled backward, his fist caught my shoulder, slamming me against the kitchen counter. The book flew from my hands and hit the tile floor with a thud, landing face down. "You don't touch anything that belongs to me," he snarled, looming over me. "Do you understand? This is my house now. Stay in your lane, nurse." I pressed my hand to my burning cheek, tasting blood where my teeth had cut the inside of my mouth. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall in front of him. He stormed back toward his study, muttering about changing the locks again. Shaking, I bent to pick up the book. That's when I saw it. The back cover had come partially loose from the binding during the fall. Tucked inside the cloth lining was a folded paper. My fingers trembled as I pulled it free. It was a notarized deed of gift dated almost 3 years ago, just 2 months before my mother married Marcus. The property at 142 Lakeshore Drive, the Serenity Lake House, granted directly to me, Claire Bennett, as separate property, explicitly protected from any marital estate or commingling. Grantor, Beatrice Hale. Grantee, Claire Elizabeth Bennett. The language was ironclad. My heart hammered. This couldn't be right. Marcus had been using the lake house as collateral for massive business loans. I'd overheard phone calls about leveraging the family asset for new developments. My mother had mentioned signing papers to simplify ownership, but according to this deed, the property had never been part of the marital estate. It was mine alone, gifted by Grandma before Marcus ever entered the picture. Flipping through the pages with trembling hands, I found pencil notations in Marcus's precise handwriting on page 142. Loan transfer scheduled. First Cascade Bank 2.8 M approved against Serenity. POA signed post-surgery. Timing perfect. March 14th, just days after Mom's hip surgery, when she was still groggy from heavy pain meds like Percocet and Ambien. Power of attorney. He had manipulated her into signing over financial control while she was impaired. My stomach churned with nausea and rage. Marcus had built his real estate empire on lies. Using my inheritance as his personal bank account, he had isolated my mother from her old advisors, replaced them with his lawyers and accountants at Barton and Associates. He installed cameras, locks, color-coded files, everything to maintain total dominance. I photographed every page, every notation, and the deed itself with my phone. Then I carefully tucked the document back, repaired the cover as best I could, and returned the book exactly to its spot. My cheek throbbed, my shoulder ached, but a cold clarity settled over me. Marcus thought that slap would put me back in my place as the dependent stepdaughter. Instead, it had cracked open the door to his secrets. I iced my face, covered the bruise with makeup, and went to my night shift as if nothing had happened. But every quiet moment between patients, I studied those photos, piecing together the deception. He had violated corporate governance, filed fraudulent ownership claims, misled investors and banks. The Riverside Meadows project, his flagship $35 million development, was leveraged heavily against my property. Over the next days, while Marcus assumed I slept during daylight hours, I became a shadow detective in my own home. I found the POA copy in his locked cabinet, witnessed by his employees. Medical records showed Mom's med schedule. Draft emails on his computer discussed consolidating family assets and contingency plans to challenge Grandma's competency if I ever found out. He had contingency plans for his crimes. But now I had the receipts. The bruise faded, but my resolve hardened into steel. Marcus Lang thought he was untouchable. Thanks to his own violence, I held the key to burning his empire down. The days blurred into a tense routine of deception. I maintained my night shifts, smiling politely at Marcus during the rare family dinners, all while my mind raced with evidence. Working nights gave me the perfect alibi. He believed I was resting while he was at the office. Instead, I pored over documents when the house was empty. One afternoon, I slipped into his study again, heart pounding. The filing cabinet yielded more loan applications listing the Serenity Lake house as company collateral, board minutes rubber stamping the deals without due diligence. His accountant had signed off unquestioningly. The board consisted mostly of golf buddies who never asked hard questions. I photographed receipts showing Mom's medication timeline correlating exactly with the POA signing. Screenshots from her old email account, drafts Marcus had saved about tax strategies and asset consolidation. Calendar entries for board meetings discussing refinancing against the lake property for the new development. The most damning came from Marcus himself. Careless in his arrogance, he left his laptop open sometimes. I recorded a speakerphone call where he told a banker, "The lake house gives us another $2.8 million in borrowing power. Laura's fully supportive. Signed everything last month." Then the smoking gun, a draft email to his attorney. Expedite Serenity title transfer. Stepdaughter unaware of gift deed. If discovered, pursue mental incompetence, claim on grantor at time of execution. He was ready to attack my grandmother's memory posthumously. I printed copies, storing them in a safety deposit box at a bank far from Marcus's network. But evidence alone wasn't enough. I needed a strategy. The Riverside Meadows project was his legacy, groundbreaking next month with investors committed from multiple states. Every SEC filing, every investor presentation falsely listed the lake house as an asset. Studying corporate law between patient rounds, I learned about fiduciary breaches, related party transactions, and material misrepresentations. Marcus had violated nearly every rule. The board's negligence bordered on criminal. The deed's notary seal led me further. Andrew Mills, the elderly neighbor who walked his golden retriever daily. Mom once mentioned he had been a notary. If he could verify Grandma's soundness of mind, it would be unimpeachable. I created timelines and flowcharts on my laptop, mapping how Marcus systematically defrauded the family, investors, lenders, and regulators. Every arrow pointed back to that March day he exploited my mother's vulnerability. Mom had become a shadow, needing permission for small checks, isolated from her old network. Marcus convinced her it was protection. She believed him, especially through the pain med fog. I watched her trust erode his control without her realizing. My own life felt suspended. At 34, I had moved home temporarily to help with recovery and save for my own place. Marcus made it clear I was a burden. Stick to nursing, he'd sneer. His contempt fueled my fire. As the bruise yellowed, I felt the weight of history. Grandma had gifted me the property to protect it from any future husband's greedy hands, according to the deed's intent. She had foreseen this somehow. I spent hours rehearsing conversations in my head. How to tell Mom without breaking her. How to confront without tipping Marcus off prematurely. The lake house stood empty now. Supposedly renovated for income, but really just another lie. Building my case felt like defusing a bomb. One wrong move, and Marcus would lock everything down tighter. I photographed more, backed up files on encrypted drives. By week's end, I had enough to show the pattern. Fraudulent deed transfer filed by Marcus claiming Mom inherited it. Despite probate records showing no such transfer, because Grandma gifted it pre-marriage. The project financing was a house of cards resting on my stolen collateral. When exposed, loans would be called. Investors would flee. The company would implode. I lay awake during days off, staring at the ceiling, the slap replaying in my mind not as trauma anymore, but as the spark. Marcus thought he taught me a lesson about obedience. He taught me that family isn't blood alone, it's truth and protection. His documentation obsession, every note, email, receipt, would be his undoing. The same paperwork he used to control us now documented his crimes perfectly. The tension built daily. Marcus grew bolder, bragging about the groundbreaking, toasting family success at dinner. I smiled thinly, my mind calculating. The bruise was gone, but the fire inside burned brighter. I was no longer the weak stepdaughter. I was the keeper of secrets, the one who would pull the foundation out from under his empire. All because one book held more power than his fists ever could. Alliances formed slowly, carefully. I started with my charge nurse colleague Tara at the hospital. She had noticed the fading bruise despite my careful makeup and quietly offered resources on domestic issues. When I confided it was deeper, a family financial matter, she connected me to her cousin, Attorney Jordan Hale, at a women's advocacy center handling financial abuse and exploitation cases. We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown, far from Marcus's circles. Jordan, sharp-eyed and in her early 30s, examined my photos and documents. "This isn't just abuse," she said. "This is corporate fraud. Possible federal wire issues with interstate loans. First, verify that deed." That led to Mr. Andrew Mills. I approached him during his morning walk with his dog. Mentioning Grandma Beatrice lit up his face. She was sharp as a tack, he recalled. Insisted on gifting the lake house to you directly to protect it. I notarized it myself and kept copies. "Give me your lawyer's info." Jordan's plan was precise. Dual fronts. Probate court to invalidate the POA due to incapacity and seek injunction on the property. Corporate side attacking fiduciary breaches under state law. We obtained the filed original deed from county records, stamped, recorded, Ironclad language, shielding it from marital claims. A forensic accountant traced the loans, $2.8 million from Cascade Bank against the lake house, leveraged into more funding. The entire Riverside Meadows rested on fiction. We prepared a 40-page package. Medical records subpoenaed. Mr. Mills ready for deposition. Timeline charts devastating. Mom remained unaware, still trusting Marcus. Jordan planned simultaneous conservatorship petition for her protection. The board meeting loomed for final financing votes. We timed filings for maximum impact. Wednesday night filing. Thursday morning service. I created a presentation on hospital computers, magnified deed, Marcus's notes, medication timeline, fraudulent filings. Tension mounted. Marcus discussed the project openly. I pretended normalcy, but my pulse raced constantly. Jordan warned, once filed, Marcus would react explosively. I prepared recording apps. Safe places. Mr. Mills's notes confirmed Grandma's explicit intent, bypass daughter to shield from greedy future spouses. She saw it coming. Evidence mounted. Hidden accounts. Personal expenses charged to company. Patterns suggesting prior schemes. By week's end, everything aligned. Court packets ready. Board deliveries scheduled. SEC contact interested in disclosures. I felt the weight, the moral tightrope of exposing family for justice. Mom's recovery. Our future. Versus Marcus's empire. The night before filing, I visited the lake house secretly. It stood peaceful by the water. Untouched. Grandma's spirit felt present. This was worth the risk. Resolve solidified. Marcus's slap opened more than a book. It opened the path to freedom. Wednesday night filings went through. Thursday morning, process servers delivered. Marcus called furiously. I ignored. Mom received confused calls. I intercepted her, revealing evidence gently. Her face crumpled seeing the manipulation. Medicated signature. Loans. I thought I was helping the family. Marcus stormed in raging. I recorded, stood firm citing bylaws allowing me to address the board as property owner. The boardroom was chaos, packets waved, voices raised. Marcus tried control. Jordan presented my slides. Silence fell at the deed. Timeline. Notes. Loans exposed. Board members panicked. Calling lawyers. Mr. Mills testified authenticity. Bank rep announced loan review and call. Board suspended Marcus as CEO. Recognized my ownership. Apologized. Loans called. Investors fled. Project collapsed. Mom moved temporarily to Lake House with new locks. Marcus's voicemails threatened. I blocked him. SEC opened investigation. Uncovering Arizona patterns. Dominoes fell fast. Company credit frozen. Court hearing was packed. Judge invalidated POA. Confirmed ownership. Froze assets. Enjoined contact. Criminal charges loomed. Wire fraud. Elder abuse. Marcus convicted on multiple counts. Sentenced to prison. Company bankrupt. Hidden assets seized. Mom rebuilt. Reconnected. Flourished. We thrived at the lake house. Settlement paid, without lawsuit. I kept Grandma's letter pressed in the book. The slap that aimed to silence revealed truth. Justice prevailed through patience and evidence. The lingering question. In family, when greed hides behind love, how do we protect without becoming what we fear? The lake house stands as reminder, truth, once uncovered, cannot be buried again.